Can you hypnotise someone out of an addiction? Angela Carney believes you can use hypnosis to change the subconscious patterns keeping people addicted, because she says it helped change her own life. After 16 years sober, Angela fell back into addiction, lost the successful business she'd built, and at 53 thought her brain might simply be broken. Today, she's nearly 3 years sober, a certified hypnotherapist, and now works with people trying to beat their own addiction. So today, I want to find out what hypnosis actually does to the brain, why we desperately want to stop something but keep doing it anyway, and whether you can really reprogram an addicted mind. This is Angela Carney. Before we get into the episode, it'd mean the absolute world to us if you could follow or subscribe on whatever platform you're currently listening to this on. For you guys, it's just a small click of the button, but for us, it's huge to grow the podcast, get bigger guests on, and have more interesting conversations for you. Thanks so much and enjoy the episode. Angela, before we get into hypnosis, you were sober for 16 years and then ended up back in addiction. How did that happen after so long?
I suppose looking back on it, I kind of believed that I didn't really need any longer all the stuff that had kind of helped me in sobriety. I set up a business in that time and I just became, I suppose, so focused on that. And I guess I was burnt out very fast. And
From the business?
From the business,
okay.
Yeah. And I guess around, like the business was well established, but I built it up from scratch and it went on to become very successful. But by the time really it had got to that stage, I had burnt out. So when I first got sober, when I was in my early 30s, I went to a treatment centre.
Okay.
And had, kind of, which obviously was a great help, but I also went down my own road, excuse me, even then of trying to look for alternative things, in order to, I suppose, make me feel a bit more at ease in the world. And I would have got into meditation and I found it really helpful. Like I would have gone to ashrams, I would have gone to Buddhist retreats. I got really interested in nutrition. I figured out very quickly that sobriety includes so many factors, nutrition, how you spend your time, all of those things. So, obviously
Do you think like there's an element of just trying to keep yourself busy and stuff, like occupied or?
Well, I think you definitely need to, be doing things that interest you, that you're, that you've built a life that you don't want to escape from.
Yes,
it has to have value in it and it has to have meaning. And, even though my first year I found it very difficult, with regards to wanting to drink.
Right.
And looking back on it now, I was using meditation, but not to the same degree that I did later on. But I was probably white knuckling it at times. But I do remember just the very strong feeling of, no matter how uncomfortable this is or how difficult this day is, I am gathering information. I'm building a life. I have evidence to know that this is a better life. So I'm not going back.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't easy. So yeah, I got really, I started to live my life, I suppose, and my life really took off. Everything was going really well until it wasn't, I suppose, yeah.
And then because 16 years is a long time to...
It's a long time,
But
yeah.
I suppose, I've heard Russell Brand saying things like, he just says, I'm not an addict today, and he just takes it day by day.
Yeah.
I've heard of him talk about that too far in the future, and that's why, obviously I'm not being dismissive rather, of saying, you were sober for 16 years and then, because every day I'm sure is still challenging. I'm sure it's not like...
No, not really after the first year. It just kind of, everything fell into place. But I suppose what happened was when around 2016. That was the year my mother died, but she was quite ill before that. And my business had grown so fast, I had to move the production to Dublin. So I had to move. I was kind of moving between Mayo and Dublin. And that's when the pressure was really starting to kick in. So I had started to smoke weed around that time. Because my thinking was, well, I went into a treatment centre for alcohol addiction.
Yeah,
I've never had a problem with weed.
Yeah.
I'd smoked it, of course.
Yes.
But I always I had a boyfriend at the time who was a complete stoner. So I thought, well, yeah, I only smoked it really because it was around him. Well, boy, was I to find out that was very different because I started smoking it like sometimes with friends who smoked it. And then in the evenings. But within probably 6 months, I was kind of hooked. I still wasn't, I still wasn't drinking, and I had never done other drugs. I was, in fact, somebody that, in my earlier years, something always told me, stay away from drugs because you don't have a mind that can handle drugs.
Right, okay.
I mean, alcohol is a drug, of course, and I certainly didn't have a mind that could handle that either, but I just kind of knew that was another level.
It's a little bit more socially accepted, though, in alcohol, especially in Ireland, I suppose.
Oh, my God, yeah, and that is really such a massive problem with alcohol addiction.
And it's, I think it's getting, you're actually only speaking about it the other day, I think it's getting less and less now, though. Now, because you know yourself, in Ireland, a baby's born. Oh, she will wet the baby's head.
Yeah.
Someone dies. Oh, geez, the funeral. Truthfully, some of the funerals that I've been at have been the maddest parties that I've ever been at.
Yeah.
Like some of the funerals that I've been at have been crazier than weddings. So
yeah, I think Irish people prefer a funeral than a wedding.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is everything was for the longest time, and still I don't think we're completely away from the culture of drinking, but a lot of being Irish is about drinking, isn't it? And even socialisation and
it's I suppose, look, we witness it, like we see it all the time. It also really draws attention to it when you go abroad. I was in Santiago in Spain a few months ago for a few nights, and I actually have to say I didn't see one drunk person.
Aye.
Yeah, I felt great. I felt right.
Yeah.
Right at home. These are my people.
Now it's with other cultures as well. That kind of, it's more just of almost a casual thing. Like they don't really. I found in other countries they find it weird that you would drink to get drunk.
Yeah, completely. They'd be having you in rehab within a week if they witnessed some of the crack. It's so unfortunate, and it's so normalised that. That's exactly what the mind does, and especially in an addicted mind, if you are in an environment where it's normalised, you will carry on for a lot longer, despite the consequences, despite how it makes you feel, because it's so normal. And especially even more so if you grew up in a house where there was alcoholism, you have got that message from a very young age that alcohol is the answer to actually everything, And
you were saying that, so after smoking weed for 6 months, you were addicted. Did that ever make you want to go back drinking, or?
No, not necessarily.
Sorry, how far along were you into, like the lack of alcohol at this stage?
At that stage, I was probably 14, 15 years. I was still a very good stretch.
Okay.
And, I guess there are major issues like with marijuana. I know it's minimised a lot. And certainly, it for me, it didn't affect me as bad as, the others stuff did further along the way. But I already realised after about 6-7 months that things were beginning to slip a little bit. Like, I was running a business, I had staff, letting things go, forgetting about stuff. There's one thing about it's such a detrimental drug, weed, if you have ambition and if you're running your own business. Yeah. And I was running a food business. Yeah. Not a business you can afford. Now, I had really good staff, so I was fortunate in that way. But I just, because I suppose that's the way my brain was. Yeah,
you were kind of just like, oh, well, this is not the issue. The alcohol is the issue.
The alcohol is the issue. And that was a very, very strong belief that I held. I mean, the warning signs were there. They were there when I look back on it, but in that moment.
Do you think you were just looking for something to kind of just help ease your mind, or what was the reasoning for starting to smoke on the weed?
The belief was, because it is a great drug for checking out.
Yes.
It is a great drug for blurring reality. You can
just relaxation.
Just relaxation. You're in your own world. So I'm not bothered about like the 100 phone calls or, having a food business is a very tricky business.
Yeah,
It's a fresh food business. I'm supplying to supermarkets. There's a lot of red tape and a lot of things that can go wrong on a daily basis.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it's just,
sure, yeah.
and actually at that stage, I hated the business. I really did. But I guess my belief even then was, well, you can't get out. Who gets out of a successful business?
Yeah.
On the surface, I really, I should have been thinking, wow, I've really made it. Here I am. What a great life.
Probably financially free at that point. And
Yeah. Beyond what I ever would have believed when I started out. But then I guess I went down that road. I began to meet other people, I guess, that were using other drugs. Not that I am in any way blaming anybody else.
No, of course.
I was on, and I still was just smoking weed. But after time, I'd say by the age of, I was about 48, 49, I had become a full-blown addict. Not just an alcoholic, I was also a drug addict. And that was just another level of pure hell.
And was at this, did you ever go back drinking alcohol at that point?
Yes. Yeah. I had, but the drugs came first. It was a concoction, cocaine, Valium.
And was at that point was that kind of the first time you were at the bin trying cocaine and kind of Valium and stuff like that?
Yeah, I imagine I'd never taken Valium in my life.
Right, okay. Yeah, so.
I had taken cocaine once when I was in my late teens, early 20s when I lived in London.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't like it.
Right.
And yeah.
So, and then it was just, obviously you started smoking the weed and then just, it kind of just brought on everything really.
Well, I guess what had happened, like after all of those years, I had a dopamine system that was balanced. It did, I wasn't using artificial substances in order to in any way spike it. And again, I only know this now, of course, the weed would have opened that gateway again, that reward pathway would have registered. There's the reward, because it's a saying in recovery circles, when you were sober, your addiction was out in the car park doing press-ups. Like it's just that dopamine system, once it has been stimulated, once it has been spiked by whatever that substance is, through abstinence for sure, it goes back to baseline, but it will always remember, because dopamine remembers everything and it's the reward center. Right, so whatever you found rewarding, as in I once found at that stage alcohol rewarding, my dopamine system would have been eventually hijacked. If you keep, say, it's maybe, if anyone is listening with regards to addiction, I suppose what that is about. So we all produce dopamine in the brain. It's a neurotransmitter and it's linked to the reward pathways. So once, so normal dopamine you would get from exercise, hanging out with friends, going to the cinema, hanging out with your family, doing normal things.
Natural.
But once it's artificially stimulated, it starts to downregulate, because it doesn't like that. It's thinking, oh, what the hell's happening here? Downregulates. Then you start needing more and more of the substance, but you get less of the high, less of the buzz, less of the effect that you're looking for. And then eventually, when people really are at the late stages of addiction, they are no longer using for the buzz, for the kick. They are using just to feel normal. Yeah. Just to exist. Yeah. So I suppose my dopamine receptors would have already gone through that with my alcohol addiction. So they never will fully go back. So the weed was the first to basically open the floodgates. It's like the floodgates were on. But it was slow, but with the harder drugs, because your dopamine reacts depending on the drug. So for example, weed probably the reward wouldn't be as great as, say, if you compare it to crystal meth. Yes. And people say with crystal meth addiction, a lot of them can actually say, I was addicted the first time I took it. The more, the greater the high, the greater the spike, the more likely it is that you will become addicted to it, depending on the person, depending on their background.
Yeah, of course, I'm sure. So I'm sure it's personal. Yeah. Because I heard, I don't know how true this is, but I heard like the buzz of crystal meth or even crack cocaine is only 10 seconds. That's what I
Yeah.
heard. I don't know how true that is, but
Yeah.
yeah, I heard.
It's very fast. So the faster that you get that relief, that you get that reward, and remember that whole system, which is mainly in your subconscious mind, it isn't interested or it doesn't care about the consequences of what you're doing.
I'm sure.
It's just saying it because your dopamine is responsible for your motivation. It's responsible for learning. So if it says, especially with something like crystal meth, oh, wow, you know, this was rewarding, it will remember it, do it again. So you go from liking something to, you know, wanting something to needing something. So the harder the drugs in general, the quicker it will be.
And you eventually Googled, can I fix my brain? What did you discover that sent you down this completely, because that's a completely different route then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, to just sit there one night and just said, can I fix my brain? Which,
the gift of desperation.
yeah, but I love I even in a sense love the thought process behind that, you know, that you were just like, oh, you knew, like, I suppose it's such self-awareness to go, like, there's really something wrong here. Because you know yourself, like, a lot of the times I've had family in addiction and you just talk to them and they just think that there's nothing going on. You know, as in, like, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Almost, you know, so it's like great self-awareness from yourself to understand.
I think things had got to such a terrible degree. You know, I lost my business.
Yeah, okay.
And now that wasn't necessarily completely due to my addiction, but I mean, it certainly didn't
I'm sure
help.
I was going to say, I'm sure it didn't help.
No, of course not. Absolutely not. Like, you know, at that stage, I'm kind of practically insane because that's, you know, that is the way that it kind of goes. But so when the Russians invaded Ukraine and we had that whole the inflation issues, my products were premium products. So the sales went off a cliff anyway.
Okay.
But at that stage, I was at the worst of my addiction. So looking back, if I could have got myself together, I could have maybe turned it around. But actually, things happen for a reason. Not always, but in this case,
Yeah.
So I guess that was an awful blow. I was still in addiction, but I was thinking, oh my God, I have ruined my life, you know. But there was one little chink of maybe this is not so bad, is that maybe that somebody was going to buy my business. It had been valued a year prior, you know, for quite a lot of money. And my whole thing was, oh yeah, that's great. I can retire and then I'll get sober and then I'll have a great life. Everything's going to be great.
We'll deal
that
with
was the plan.
Yeah. Which, you know, wishful thinking, isn't it?
Wishful thinking. But you know, at the time it all seemed possible. If the world had continued to stay the way that I wanted it to stay, all would have been well. But anyway, so. And I remember this day so distinctly. So I'm down in Mayo. I'm living in the middle of nowhere. I'd already, in the meantime, because my addiction continued for in and around 5 years. I'd already been back to the treatment centre again. I got 7 months sober. I had at that stage, I don't know how many, you know, times I'd detoxed, how many times I'd got off it. I'd get a week sober. It could be a month, could be 6 weeks, 6 months. It was a nightmare. And all the time I was just losing more and more hope. But again, I was holding on to this thing, okay, when the business sells. Now, I wasn't getting anything near what I thought, you know, what it had been valued at. But nonetheless, it was some little consolation, I guess.
Yeah.
And again,
like a bit of hope as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was hope, and there was also, okay, I kind of, you know, getting used to losing the business. I thought, okay, well, maybe now I can really give myself this time that I need to get sober and really get my life together. And, you know, which was kind of a luxury, really, in a way. So,
why do you think at that time you couldn't just, because there was a lot of evidence there to suggest that you could, like, you at that point you were 16 years sober.
Yeah.
Well, was it from alcohol, but probably 14 before.
14, yeah, because
But 14 is like 14's a lifetime as well.
4 months is a long time.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But so that's what I'm saying. So at that time, why did you? What was it about the short periods that just kept on making you relapse, even though you had this evidence to go, oh, well, I was sober for 14 years.
Yeah, that was a major issue with me, was because I was now what's known as cross-addicted. Okay. So I would almost look at it and think, yeah, well, yeah, it's getting sober from alcohol that's a whole different ball game. You know, my brain would have been affected on a much more serious level because my drug taking, it was heavy use drug taking.
Right.
Because I was also in the I was also in a situation where I'm not married. I don't have children. I live by myself. I'm a law unto myself. If I was employed, I would have been fired. If I was married, I would have been kicked out,
Yeah.
I had the money. And so therefore I could also kind of fool myself in thinking, oh yeah, well before I lost the business, of course, there's almost like a veneer of success.
Yes.
I'm kind of almost a little bit untouchable. I suppose the memory of my prior sobriety seemed so far away. It seemed like I was a different person.
Okay.
And because of what addiction does to your mind, because what it does, predominantly so, is it makes you have no belief in yourself.
Yeah.
So even that evidence of, and friends would say that, people would say it all the time, come on, Angela, you've done it before. And I would say it to myself. I just didn't believe it. I was too hooked.
Yeah, okay.
I was too hooked.
Would you say it was a different ball game the second time round?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens. My dopamine system, my brain was hijacked. It's that thing when people say, sure, you look at your life, like you're falling apart, you're going to end up homeless, you're going to end up this, that, and the other. Saying that to a person in the throes of a really serious addiction, they know all that.
Yeah.
They know it. I have never met an addict, I would be one of them, that they consciously know.
Yeah.
They consciously know all of the reasons.
Which is probably a very frustrating thing to hear that coming from a person sometimes.
Yeah, because it is.
Because it's nearly like you just want to look at them and go, do you think I want all them things to happen to me, and I know that it can happen to me?
Yeah.
Do you know?
It can be frustrating. I understand their frustration, like the people in my life that would say that to me, Angela, look at, before everything fell apart with the business, look at all that you have. And I got it. Absolutely.
No, because I've been on the opposite side as well, even with some of my family members, I'm like, do you not understand that? And I'm just like, nearly naively and stupidly, I'm like, I'm saying to them, do you not understand the consequences this is going to have on your whole life? And it's like, it's just not resonating with them at all. But obviously, as I've got more mature and kind of spoke to different people, I'm like, all right, it's obviously not as straightforward.
It's because they understand it in their conscious mind, which is only 5% of the mind. Your subconscious is 95%. And that is running on a completely different program.
Yeah.
It's running on habits. It's running on self-belief. It's running on your past. It's basically automatic behavior. And in addiction, that part of your mind that's where addiction is. It's in the subconscious mind. So with that 5% of your mind being the conscious mind saying, yeah, I need to get sober because of blah, blah, blah. And that's why a lot of people in addiction themselves are bewildered. I hear it all the time with the clients that I deal with. Like, I know I shouldn't be doing this. I know, but I can't seem to stop. Sometimes just explaining to somebody to say, that's okay, that's normal, that's because your subconscious mind isn't on board. So, that was the thing. Like, I knew all of that. And I was just so unhappy because it's like a vicious cycle anyway. If you're doing that many drugs, your nervous system is absolutely destroyed. Your world becomes so narrow. Any of the things that you used to enjoy in life, they're all gone. And I remember feeling that was such a lonely place to be in. Like, I used to have such a colourful, great life, going to the cinema, going to the theatre, going out, going places, travelling. And then in the last few months, it was just, I hardly saw anybody.
And then walk us through how you got involved initially in the hypnosis side of things.
Yeah. So just going back to that night of how do I fix my brain, everything was going kind of okay until the sale from my business fell through.
Okay. Yeah, which without all them is never got, without all everything that else that you're going through would have been a hard blow for you anyway.
Yeah.
For any normal, you know what I mean, for like people who's not addicted or not in addiction or whatever, is that being a hard blow for anybody.
It was, and I think what it was is that I had fooled myself into believing that my life would be fine once that happened, which looking back, it wouldn't have been if I had the same mind as I did then. So
probably nearly for the better that it didn't happen in a sense.
Yeah.
Because then you just would have had like even less responsibility and a lot more money.
Yeah, people said that to me. My brothers said that to me. Angela, we really. I know it sounds not a great thing to say, but we think you'd be dead.
Yeah.
If that did
Yeah.
happen, because I mean, it would give me. It would give me more time where I could stay in addiction, because your brain wants you to stay in addiction. It's familiar. The subconscious likes familiar. It doesn't like. It's
Yes.
always in
Change.
survival. Yeah. So anyway, when that fell through, it was almost like looking back again, I'm thinking, yeah, that is exactly what needed to happen, because it was like my whole world fell apart. I was like, oh my God, I had to really face up to the fact that I had really made a mess of my life, and. I remember on that day, I was thinking, you know what? I don't have it in me to, like, I was 53 then, like 53, starting all over again.
Yeah, very
like, and you're looking at it from a place when you're mired in addiction. So the person who you become down the road doesn't resemble who you are in that moment, in the height of your addiction. Like you're at your worst, So I thought to myself, it was a thought, okay, like just up your doses of everything, and maybe let's just whatever, see which way the dice goes. But there was also a little chink of something which kind of said to me that this is not the way that it's supposed to go. It was only small. And then I would go back and forward. I kind of oscillate between both. And then I would think, well, how can I get sober? There's something wrong with my brain. I have evidence that I've tried before. And that's when I Googled, how can I fix
Yeah, because
my
obviously
brain?
been through so many different treatments at that point.
Yeah, I tried like ayahuasca. I tried every guru. I had tried counselors. I tried everything, And that was like an epiphany that day, because I'd never come across the word before, neuroplasticity. And I was thinking, okay, what is this? Because I'd always believed that up until the age of 25, after the age of 25, who you were, how your brain was cast in stone.
Yes.
So then this word neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change. And I'm thinking, wow. Now, I'm very fortunate. I've always been a very curious person, and I've always been a big reader. So, now I'm still pretty out of it.
Yeah.
I'm very much out of it when I'm doing this. So I just start Googling, okay, how do I do it? So it told me, okay, like things like, okay, learn. So neuroplasticity is all about learning, and, so learning new things is good for neuroplasticity. Exercise. I mean, I was not, to go outside the door was a big deal. Learning a new instrument, and obviously wasn't my priority, but meditation. Sure. And I hadn't meditated in years, but I had experience, and I thought, yeah, okay, I can do that. So I started tapering off the drugs, the alcohol. But in the meantime, as I was doing that, I started researching further into how can I, what is the best way for me to change my brain? How can I get sober, basically, using neuroplasticity? And I learned to use, and I'm taking notes. So my tapering off everything is going on for about a week. I mean, when I look back in it now, I think like the madness of that even in itself, that there's like this, here in this house in the middle of nowhere, coming off all of this stuff. It's like, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody because it could potentially be very dangerous for people. And I'm taking these notes. But what I had a little bit of hope, not a lot. I wasn't very hopeful because I'd had, so I start taking the notes, get into a theta brainwave state, which is the brainwave state when you are in deep meditation or in hypnosis. Start to tell yourself what it is you want, which I wanted. I wanted to be sober. I wanted to feel free. I wanted blah, blah, blah. And I came across a guy called Neville Goddard. He was some kind of a mystic, and from, I think, maybe the early 1900s, mid 1900s maybe. And he had this thing of you can trick your subconscious mind to believe that something has already happened.
Yes.
Before it's already happened. And the subconscious mind only deals with the present tense, which is why a lot of habits for people are difficult to change, because they say, oh, I'll do that next week. Your subconscious mind is saying, yeah, whatever. It's in the present tense. So I realized I had to basically just come up with loads of affirmations in the present tense, and in the present tense, but also see myself in the future. But I had to imagine how I would feel if I was sober. But I'm still saying I'm sober in the present tense. So anyway, the day comes. everything's gone, the drugs are gone, drink, everything else. Now, normally, because I'd been through this so many times, I would be in for a week of absolute hell. It like, you know, I wouldn't wish it on my worst nightmare. My withdrawals were so
the withdrawals,
horrific.
yeah, you mean.
Yeah. I would
Okay.
normally, before I suppose I became hooked on Valium, I would have needed Valium in order to detox
Okay,
from everything
yes,
else.
yeah.
And then because I was abusing that for so long, that
Yeah,
just
you
became
couldn't
another,
live,
added
yeah.
that to the collection. So anyway, I remember like I sat there and I'm nervous. So I do the breath work, which is a lot of very deep breathing. I just learned it on YouTube to get me into that theta brainwave state, because when you're in that brainwave state,
Is that the brainwave state kids operate in from when
Yes.
they're born to, is it, I
up to
believe,
the age of 7. Yeah.
Yeah, 7, yeah.
Yeah. There's like, that whole thing of I think it was the Jesuits say, like, show me the child up until the age of 7 and I will show you the man.
Yeah,
A lot of your programming comes from there.
So now the old Greek philosophers, I don't know if it was, I don't know, I'm probably butchering it, I don't think it was Plato. One of the famous Greek philosophers said it, I believe, show me the boy. And
It could have been Marcus Aurelius maybe, or...
no, I don't.
I don't know who it's attributed to.
It was the kind of the guy, he's a real famous Greek
It's not
philosopher.
Socrates, is it?
Socrates,
Yeah.
is it? Seneca, I think it was
yeah.
Seneca.
One
Yeah,
of them,
it
yeah.
was one of them. And
Yeah.
that was the one who used to be with Alexander the Great.
Yes.
I can't remember which one of them it was, but
Yeah.
I remember, yeah. But sorry, going
Yeah,
back
so
to,
you're basically, so you're in that theta
because it's very
brainwave state.
intriguing that from 0 to 7, them years,
Yeah.
and that's why they say they're the most formative years, aren't they?
Most formative years, yeah. And whatever beliefs you have picked up about yourself, be it from your family, your parents, your culture, whatever it is, they will more than likely be what drives you, because they're subconscious, drives you for most of your life. The psychotherapist Carl Jung says, until you make the unconscious conscious,
yeah.
it will drive your life and you will call it fate. And we're living in a world, I was one of them, where most people don't even know what's driving their life.
Yeah.
It's their subconscious, but they're not even aware of it. And they end up marrying a person maybe they probably never should have married. They end up in a job they don't really want to, be in.
But I think it's just because like so many, so much of the world are not conscious about a lot of things, isn't it?
Yeah, big time.
Even
And a lot of people don't like themselves. They really don't. I find
because
that very
they've picked
much.
up beliefs
Yeah.
about themselves, I think.
Yeah. Because when a child hears something, might not necessarily even be words. It can be something they pick up from a parent, the way a parent acts towards them. Like I was dealing with a client recently where it could be even that a parent was depressed, so they weren't able to be kind of present for the
Yes.
children. A child won't look at that and think, oh yeah, my mum is depressed or my dad is depressed. They will just see it as, well, I'm not very likable or I'm not lovable. And if you bring that with you through most of your life, it makes perfect sense that the first time you take a substance which alters the way that you think about yourself, why wouldn't it become addictive?
Yes.
It's the solution to you no longer in that moment having to feel like that, So, and I guess that's part of my recovery on this occasion, is that I've become so much conscious of the way that I think, because also that's the kind of work that I'm in. So, so I'm so that's the theta brainwave state. So I knew I needed to get my mind into that theta brainwave state, which is through breath work. So I learned how to do that. And on that first night, it was October, and I'm meditating. I'm in that very deep state, and I'm doing my affirmations, and I'm trying to conjure up the feeling of relief and joy of how it would feel if I were out of this hell. So I'm saying over and over again, I am sober and I feel so joyous about my life. Now, my conscious mind, of course, is saying, Angela, your life, you're in absolute hell. This is the next few days are going to be like something from a horror movie. Who are you fooling around here? But anyway, I just kept saying it. And this was when, like, after it's probably about an hour and a half, I had, like, it's so hard to describe in a way, but I had this feeling of peace, this feeling of joy that was like pulsating through my body. Real joy. And what was so overwhelming about it, like in a beautiful way, is that I hadn't felt anything in so long.
Yes, okay, you're nearly numb from the drugs.
Oh, completely, yeah.
Okay.
Like joy. I mean, what, you know, and it struck me. It struck me that, like I should be in the middle of the worst withdrawals without Valium.
Yes.
Without Valium to tone it down. And I am creating in my body and in my mind a feeling of pure joy. And it's coming from inside of me.
Yeah.
Like it's...
I know, and that's why I'm so intrigued by so much of what you're even saying now, because I talk about visualization a lot and affirmations and stuff like that, and I'm sure there's no doubt that when, even back then when I was talking about visualization, people, because I'm nearly sure I was telling the doctors about it early on, and he was saying, now I will say my surgeons were open to it. My surgeons were open to it, but the doctors, the surgeons were, in fairness, because I was talking to them about neuroplasticity and stuff like that, and they were even, because they kind of understood a lot about it, they were able to bounce back on me, but the doctors were just like, oh, they didn't want to say to me, but yeah, like, this fella's a lunatic.
They probably wouldn't like it, because actually, I suppose in reality, like the way the brain operates, like you and I could put on white coats and we could write out prescriptions for people, say with depression, and we could say, here's your pills, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to absolutely feel amazing. We're giving them like sugar pills. And we would probably have a better effect just with our white coats on, handing that out as an actual doctor that is handing that. It's all in the mind. So much is in the mind. And I think that was, I guess, look, there was still a lot of madness. I still went through withdrawals. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't that, I miraculously
fixed.
No, it was still, a tricky ride. But it was that thing. I knew that I'm so much more powerful than I ever thought, because when you're in addiction, you're totally disempowered. You feel like the most worthless, the most,
I'm sure,
life is so pointless.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, and so that was really all I needed. So I continued to meditate. And now I'm talking like 2 to 3 hours per day, but I needed to do that much work because I knew I needed to do everything. And I knew I had found something. What it basically did was it sped up my recovery.
Okay.
Because I couldn't go through. It was the easiest detox I'd ever had without the aid of Valium. Like, how do you know what I mean? Like, that's practically unheard of. And I still had to rebuild my life, for sure. I still went through, all of the issues around detoxing, physical detox, all of that. But I got better much faster.
Yeah.
Using my mind. No medication, no nothing. My mind.
Yeah. And just like just a different method too, and that's why I find what you do so intriguing, because it's just such a different method that even a lot of people listening might be aware of,
Yeah.
So like, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, like, let's make this really simple. When someone comes to you with an addiction, what do you actually do for them?
I suppose one of the main questions I ask is, what are you getting from it? Because nobody is in addiction if they don't believe that they're getting something from it. So I need to, and they're all deceptions, most of them. Your brain will lie to you, to protect you. Because
but I'm sure, like, even what we are going back talking about earlier on, I'm sure a lot of people probably aren't even conscious about why they're actually, why they want to take drugs, or why they feel like they need to take drugs.
Absolutely. Most people aren't. So I suppose that's where my work with people is different from that of a psychotherapist. Say if a person was drinking and they go to a psychotherapist, you're talking from the conscious mind.
Yes.
When I'm working with someone in hypnotherapy, I'm getting them to that theta brainwave state. So their prefrontal cortex, where, all your reason and your analytical mind is, that is kind of quietening down a little bit. And I'm asking the questions to the subconscious mind. And that's where most of the answers are.
Right, okay, so say for instance I come into you will hypnotise me first and then ask me a series of questions?
Yeah, I'm guiding you through. I'm basically asking you, once you're in a hypnotic state, I'm asking you to go to basically tell me, what is the reason? what is the message behind it, to go back to possibly an earlier stage in your life. It's 9 times out of 10 it is earlier. And I gather that information together. I get the person to look at it, mainly to ask for them mainly to ask them, is that statement true? It's normally a negative belief. 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time, it's a negative belief about themselves. I don't like myself is a big one. Nothing will ever go right for me in life. I'm different. I can't connect. They're the major ones under addiction, the root cause. And it can be something that they picked up when they were 4. It could be a message they got at home, extremely cruel parents to parents who were just, parents. It's not a blame game with most parents.
Probably just going through their own things.
Yeah, it could be a teacher, it could be bullying, whatever. So we dismantle that belief and then get them to see it in another way.
But does people who are less susceptible to hypnosis than other people, is that true?
No.
Like if you, say for instance, has anybody ever came to you who you couldn't hypnotise?
No.
Right.
Even if they're not, some people are definitely easier to hypnotise than others. You can the signs to look for sure. Some people are very much so. Some not as much.
It like, would you know by just looking at someone walking down the street? Whether that's probably a silly question, but are what kind of, not what are the signs, but would you be conscious about having a kind of a 5-minute conversation whether somebody be really difficult to hypnotise or they wouldn't be?
Yeah, you could know maybe by certain traits. People might say, well, I couldn't be hypnotized because I'm too in control, whereas that's kind of, it's not about letting go of control. You're in full control throughout a session. You know exactly what's being said. It's not like, say, stage hypnosis where somebody is, gone off radio. The person is aware. It's just that quietening down of the conscious mind for the subconscious mind to be able to figure stuff out on a different level, because most people don't ever go to the level of their subconscious mind.
Yeah.
They're not even conscious most of the time. And like, even with regards to something like hypnotherapy, we are being hypnotized every single day of the week. We are living in a world where even especially down to addiction, so much of addiction is through being brainwashed, through being hypnotized.
Give examples.
Well, like advertising.
Okay.
They employ hypnotherapists, behavioral therapists.
Yes.
They know how to drag you in. They know how to hook you. Drinks adverts are very much aimed at your emotions, because your subconscious mind, it will relate more. It's more influenced by emotion than logic. Oh. So a drinks ad, what is it typically? People having a great time, laughing, dancing, celebrating. Or it can be something sad, someone, looking kind of like sadly into the fireplace with a glass of whiskey in their hand, nice glow off the whiskey. So your brain is looking, it's kind of putting those two together. It's every fast food companies, ultra processed food companies.
Yeah.
Pringles, for example. Who does not know the slogan, once you pop, you can't stop? It's because that advertisement, they know what they are doing.
It's genius advertisement and marketing, isn't it? Like,
absolutely. Nike, just do it.
Yeah.
Really good.
So I briefly touched on it in school when I was a kid, and they were kind of going behind the subconscious mind about advertising. But it was, like I said, it was really brief, but I just remember finding all that interesting going.
But that's good that they were doing that in school, because I think, God, if they told kids nowadays, look, it's the repetition. Most of the big advertising companies, if it's an advert for whiskey, if it's an advert for, I don't know, chocolate, they will keep using the same ad over and over again, because the subconscious mind likes repetition.
Yes.
That's why affirmations, when you want to change, make them repetitive. At the end of my sessions, I make a bespoke recording for someone. I'm shifting around all of their beliefs, and I'm basically telling them, you are totally indifferent to alcohol, you're totally indifferent to drugs, whatever. Now, again, your conscious mind can say, no, that's not true.
Yeah, I suppose we are what we tell ourselves. Do you know what I mean? A lot of the time, and I suppose a lot of the time, like we are talking about, is sometimes you're not telling yourself anything. It's your subconscious mind telling you everything. Yeah. That you're not worthy or you're not good enough. And
your subconscious will believe it. It, you know, it doesn't even get like, it doesn't get irony. It has no sense of humor whatsoever. It's just, it's because it's a primal part of our brain. It's from evolutionary times when it was designed for survival.
Yes.
It was designed to get you out, to hunt, to get food. You know, there wasn't too many dopamine spikes involved in that. It was, you know, people were, everything probably was more on a leveled. And now we live in a world.
Is that like the amygdala?
The amygdala it works in conjunction with your dopamine system, which is your fear-based center.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Because that's what kept us alive a couple of, well,
Absolutely.
I'm saying a couple of years ago, but thousands of years ago, if you're saying a bush shake, yeah, amygdala was the one to go, yeah, that's probably not going to be good, get out of here.
yeah,
Kind
absolutely.
of fight or flight, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's the problem with addiction, is that you are in fight or flight all the time. Your nervous system, as I said, it's all about survival. But when you are a person in addiction, when you can't get that drink or when you can't get that drug, if you're going through withdrawals, it feels the same as in evolutionary times to that nervous system, as if a lion was about to kill you in that nervous system in current day, because that part of your mind, the subconscious mind, it's still quite primitive. So everything you say to yourself, it hears it and it believes it.
Yeah, because I remember saying that a long time ago about how you should never even joke speaking negatively about yourself. You know, even if it's a joke, because your mind doesn't know that you're joking.
No.
You know,
It doesn't know what's true or false. But this is what
and that's why it's a good thing, though, isn't it?
That's why it's a good thing. Because when I was telling myself I'm sober and I'm joyous, it's a good job it didn't, it didn't realise that was so far from the truth. But no more than in your case as well, Ryan, that, after your accident, that you were able to actually believe that you could walk again.
Yeah, because I remember just visualising it loads, and I just constantly, even I used to, funny enough, we're here, but my gym is just over there, and I used to even try and smell the smells of, I'll never forget, it was, I used to visualise, I used to be, and bear in mind, from the neck down, nothing's happening, but I used to visualise that I was bicep curling,
Wow,
and that's where I used to visualise all the time. There's a certain seat that I used to sit to do bicep curls, and that's I used to just visualise loads, and like that I used to just constantly tell my mind, no, you're gonna beat this, it's gonna happen, even though, let's be honest, there probably wasn't much evidence that that was gonna be the case.
But how easy it would have been for your mind to go with what the doctor said, and for you just to go, yeah, well, okay, don't even, don't bother.
Yeah, because obviously it was a pretty horrendous time to I just couldn't do anything for myself. So obviously I felt really down in myself on top of being told that this is the end. So thank God I understood, definitely not as much as you, but I understood a bit about the mind and was able to kind of implement that. But again, even at that stage when I was saying certain things, I know people were like, this fella is a lunatic.
They were probably really afraid for you that you were going to have a crushing disappointment.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
And I could imagine,
Yeah, I'm sure, there's a lot of people that was trying to manage me expectations around that point.
Out of love, of course.
Yeah, of course, it only comes from a good place.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it's nearly, just in my opinion, sometimes it's nearly better to be delusional.
Deluded, totally. Yeah. I mean, there's no way I would be sober if I didn't on that day decide to take all those notes and decide to do that. Oh my God, I definitely...
Well, if you weren't somewhat deluded about it and you were saying, I'm not addicted, or, you're doing great, you would have been... The rational part of your mind would have been like, what are you talking about? You're just sitting in the middle of your sitting room floor saying a lot of stuff that's not true.
Completely fucked your life up. But, you're now 53. You got to start all over again. I mean, absolutely. If I had to sit and if that was... That could very easily be the alternative for a lot of other people. Sit there thinking, I'm 53 years of age, I've lost everything. Nothing is ever going to work out for me again. Focusing on everything I lost. I learned very quickly to start focusing on what I had.
Yes.
Because I had more than enough. And I look back on that now, and I remember thinking that I think for so many people, it's shameful sometimes to always want more or to think you don't have enough when you don't really know what that means. You know, there are real people in this world who really knows. And I really just comforted myself with, you know, I have a roof over my head.
Yes.
I have a car. That was a big one. You know,
Yeah.
I still had a car. I have food in the fridge. I'm alive.
Yeah.
And I stayed with that. I didn't look too much into the future because I couldn't, that was too scary for me. And the subconscious mind.
I think the further you look, the more you can wander, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, in my future, if in my present state of mind was looking, it was like there was no future.
Yeah.
So that was when it was time to get deluded. You know, I think it was maybe that I believed that something told me, like that night when I said, like, and I had those feelings of joy. And I know this probably sounds a bit mad, Ryan, but there was something else in that room.
Yeah.
That energy wasn't just in me. It was like it was inside me, but it was also all around me. And it was a beautiful, for the first time in so long, I felt safe. I felt okay, you know.
When you say something else, do you think like a religious figure, or what do you think?
I'm not religious. I do believe there's something, you know, more than this. I think you know how like that belief that we're all connected?
Yeah.
You know, that sometimes we think that we're just this one unit, but we're not, and everything is energy. You know, they can now they have machines that can measure energy, and apparently you have an energy field around you of up to 8 feet.
Yes, I heard that.
I think it was just, yeah. I think it was the universe. It was it was a higher version of myself. A God, maybe, I don't know, but it was something.
But you just felt like there was nice.
And in that, and look, some people could watch this and think, yeah, you know, you were detoxing from drugs, of course. You know, you probably thought that. I know. I know when you have that deep knowing.
Yeah, you just felt.
And anyway,
difference.
Regardless, even if it wasn't, even I imagine the whole thing, the result is the same.
Well, it worked out for you.
It worked out for me. Like that was the. But I, you know what? I'll tell you how, and I know it was real because I'll never forget it. You know, when something happens that's so profound,
feeling,
because it was just so. Such like. Maybe my suffering doesn't have to keep going.
A quick word from our sponsors, The Ink Factory. If you're looking for the best tattoo studio in Ireland, The Ink Factory in Temple Bar is one of the highest rated tattoo studios in the country, with over 5,000 5-star Google reviews. They're home to 30 expert artists, including award-winning talent covering every style from fine line to full custom pieces. They also offer professional piercings from just €25, including jewellery. So whether it's your first tattoo or your next one, you're in safe hands. Visit www.theinkfactory.ie or follow them on Instagram and TikTok at The Ink Factory.
So when you ask me, I'm sorry, I'm going about everything in a long-winded way.
No, I love it. Just tell how you want to tell it.
Yeah, the hypnotherapy then. So I had to keep saying to myself, the main thing that would cause me to go off track was panic about the future. And this is the case for anybody, anyone who is in addiction. And when they try to stop, what mainly can stop them is the fear of the future. How am I going to live in this world without that crutch? That is the biggest fear to a person in addiction.
It's so difficult though, isn't it, to tell, you know, when it's like there's this meme on the internet and it's like, anxiety, just don't worry about it, you know what I mean? And you know, so I also, because I try and tell people to live in the present, because and I'm not perfect, I worry about the future and different things and whatever, but I do try my best to bring myself back to the present all the time. But I also understand that it's very difficult to tell somebody who's worrying about a lot of things to just be present. It's difficult, isn't it? But obviously, I've done it, you've done it, it can be done. It's just I understand that it can be difficult to tell somebody who's like just so fearful about the future not to think about it. It's like, you know, don't think about the pink elephant.
Yeah,
what do you
completely.
think about the pink elephant? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Understandably
Well,
so.
in hypnotherapy, you never say to somebody, don't. Or when I make a recording for a person, I would never say, subconscious doesn't recognize don't. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Like so
So it would
don't.
only hear, if you say to someone, don't worry, your subconscious will only hear worry.
Okay.
If you
So
say,
how would you word it? Because I'm big for language.
you would say you are calm, you turn it around. So if I was saying to somebody in a recording that they have to listen to rewire their brain for 21 days, I wouldn't say you don't want to drink anymore. Your
Yeah.
subconscious would hear just you drink.
Yes.
So I would have to reword it as in you are indifferent to
Right.
alcohol. You are disinterested in.
Yeah, because I know when I don't know, maybe it's a separate, a different thing, or maybe it's not even correct. But when I write goals, I write you have, not
Yes.
you are going to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it doesn't understand you are going to. It's present focused, your
Yeah. Okay.
subconscious. So which is why I was saying like when people endlessly talk about, well, this is what I'm going to do next week or next month, and often that doesn't happen, is because your subconscious mind has not in any way registered that. You have to be deluded again to almost say, you know, I am. Like I was deluded saying I am sober because you know what I mean. I am. You say if you want to go for a new job, yeah, I have that promotion. You have to already see it because there's something in your mind which will then, it's called your reticular activation system, and it filters out a lot of information, but it leaves the information that is crucial to the belief that you have. So if you already say, like you, for example, I'm going to, walk again, and you have that belief because you did, your brain, that part of your brain will start looking for opportunities, will start looking for evidence that this is going your way. It will start showing you ways to make what you believe come true.
Yes.
That is just the way the
Yeah.
brain works. So if you're saying stuff like, oh yeah, well, I'll get, a better job next month, there's nothing happening there. There's nothing happening. You have to kind of have that belief. And if you have it, and how you have that belief is, some people say, oh yeah, well, how do you have a great belief about yourself? I've had this shit life. If you had my life, you wouldn't think
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Which is understandable.
Totally. But sometimes people can go, it doesn't serve people well.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is not
Yeah,
about me being
because
dismissive.
it's a big thing with negativity, isn't it? That I just really don't. And look, we what I say is everybody has a reason to complain about their life, but
Yeah.
I just think it doesn't solve anything by just constantly.
No. It's not about, there's that balance as well. It's not about denying that
Yeah, of
whatever your
course.
pain is, whatever your trauma is, or whatever it may be, because if you don't acknowledge it, that
Well,
can
it's
lead
like you
to
were talking
addiction
about
too.
earlier on. You were asking me about, even before the cameras were rolling, you were asking me about acceptance of the accident.
Yeah.
Because I think even I probably wouldn't even be sitting here now if I didn't accept that that's what I was going through.
But that is remarkable in itself, though, Ryan, because I think a lot of people would really struggle to come to acceptance the way
Well,
you
I
did.
kind of seen it firsthand. A lot of people just wouldn't accept. A lot of people and I just used to feel for them so much. Like they were
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of, they just wanted, and I got it. I really understood that they just wanted to believe so much that this wasn't the life. And
Yeah.
you know what? It's not like, even saying that now, it's not like it was smooth sailing for me, because there was so many. I remember I went through a particular period of months where I would wake up every morning and look at the ceiling and go, "Oh no, this is your life. This is not a bad dream." I remember I used to think that, and that went on for
I'd
the.
say that on waking up, Ryan, in those early days must have been really awful.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, it was catastrophic. It was, because it was like, I just, every morning I woke up, I just came to the realization, and it was like, oh no, because we've all had bad dreams, and we've woke up and go, oh my God, I'm so
Yeah.
thankful
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
life.
Absolutely.
But in my case, a lot of the mornings when I was waking up, I was like, oh no, this is my life now. So that was, but again, the main reason why I'm saying that is I don't want people to ever hear me, and for me to paint a different picture. You know, I did used to struggle about it. It wasn't like I was just completely immune to them feelings. But
But even if you had succumbed to, oh, like this is shit, look at my life, or, why has this happened to me, and didn't walk again, no one would have blamed you for that either, because it is
no,
understandable. But there is a difference, I think, between that, that self-pity and self-compassion.
yeah.
You
Well, I
get much
think I
further.
think sometimes in certain situations that's I've spoke about this before. That's nearly more dangerous
Really
in a
dangerous,
sense
yeah.
because nobody would have blamed me for wanting to give up or just
No.
accepting my fate.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's sometimes again. That's what I'm saying. When things are just accepted and you understand that no one's going to judge you, or because you know yourself, like a lot of the times we probably wouldn't do something because fear of judgment, but when you understand that no one's going to judge you for wanting to throw in the towel or give up, it's
Yeah.
nearly,
Tempting.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
nearly a crutch because
Yeah.
let's be honest,
Yeah.
when you are going through addiction, very uncomfortable, you know, a lot of nasty feelings within yourself, vice versa when I was going through this. So what I'm trying to say is it's an easier thing the easiest thing in the world to do is
Yeah.
give up
Yeah, yeah.
and accept that this is the way, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
There
and
can be
it's
a relief in it
yeah,
almost,
yeah, definitely.
Like there, I was that on that day as well. I was thinking, yeah, just get this, just like end it all here. Like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is like almost as which was like I was just I was just so weary. It wasn't even that I was feeling dramatic about it. It was just, oh God,
Yeah.
here we go again.
Well, because the fight can stop if you give up.
Yes,
The
yeah,
resistance doesn't have to be there anymore.
yeah, because and also your belief in yourself, it just becomes more and more diminished. But that whole thing about that belief in yourself that you have, like you have it, people who don't have it, and if they have like a limiting self-belief, the first thing that anyone listening to this today could do, if they wanted to even start thinking about that road to sobriety, is if it's a recurring negative belief about yourself, that is normally a sign that that came from somebody else, somebody in your younger years, whoever that may be. And ask yourself, if it's a belief, ask yourself where it came from.
Is it nearly always been how do you say it? How
Theta,
theta
theta brainwave, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Cause I knew about it, I just didn't know how to say it, and I didn't want to try and say it and butcher it, but I had listened to it before. I
Yeah.
had listened to
I
it.
think it's Greek actually. Theta brainwave.
Theta brain.
Yeah, it is.
So it's usually between 1 and 7.
Usually between 1 and 7. I mean, there are studies now that even say that a fetus in the last 3 months, um, in the mother's womb, can actually pick up energy and what's going. Well, because hearing is the first sense to develop in a
Okay.
fetus. Yeah, they can hear everything in the womb. So depending on what kind of an environment they're in, even at that stage, can be enough for a person, for a baby to come out into the world thinking, "I don't even want to be here."
Oh my God, that's
So
that's
straight
mad.
away, yeah, there's so much studies being done around trauma and how and there's a lot of evidence now to show that it changes. It changes the development of certain transmitters in your brain, all the feel good hormones, more importantly, like serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin, dopamine. That if you come out into this world, or your early years are, if you're brought up in a traumatic, household, that there is more of a chance that those really vital um, brain hormones do not develop in the same way as, say, a child that comes from a home that's safe.
Even I could imagine down to probably the birth not going correctly.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like how a child kind of really, how they register things. So if it's that's why she said the theta brainwave state up until the age of 7. Because let's face it, you can tell a child up until the age of 7 that you could say there was like a load of unicorns outside in the car park,
Yes.
and they'd
Yeah.
believe you.
Yeah.
They believe in the tooth fairy.
Well, that's why the imagination is so strong between them years,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So why wouldn't they believe you if you told them that they were worthless?
Yes.
Or that, nothing good is ever going to happen in your life, or nobody likes you.
Yeah, because I heard, I was saying a thing before, and I was explaining that the parent was really stressed this particular day. It was a father, and he was at the having a big fight with his wife, and he had his daughter with him, and they were at a supermarket, and it was really, obviously, supermarkets are stressful anyway. He's going through a lot of stress after just having this awful day, and he was arguing with his wife, and they were going through the self checkout, and his daughter was like screaming because you know how they put things at eye level
Yeah,
for
yeah,
kids
yeah,
to
yeah, of
see.
course, yeah.
So the his daughter was kind of like nagging him to have this toy or whatever, and the father, obviously in you know this state that he was in, stressed, panicked, whatever, turned around and said something unpleasant to the child, like, "Oh, you're bold, stop that," and then just went on with the day and whatever, and the child kind of grew up believing that what he was already at the
Yeah,
saying to her,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's like something so what people would probably deem as insignificant.
Yeah. That's what I find in dealing with clients. It's not always
The
some
the
big
big,
massive where
yeah,
they lived in a house that they were brought up by drug addicts and their parents bet the shit out of them.
yeah,
Absolutely not. It can often be something that was going on with the parents whereby that child, especially sometimes even if it's the youngest of, especially in older people, when in Ireland then, like, no contraception, when people were like, women were firing out one child after the other. Of course, by the time like the seventh or the eighth child, like, you're done with
yes, yes, yes.
parenting.
What am I
No
doing?
one to
Yeah,
blame. But could you imagine if you're like that 2 or 3 year old child and you see that they believe that all those other children were favorable to you. It's quite a
yes,
common one, actually. So even again, no one could pinpoint or pick on those parents and say they were, parents, they were decent people doing, but it just shows how sensitive we are. So if your limiting self-belief is holding you back in regards to getting on the road to getting sober, ask yourself where it came from. That is how you start making the subconscious conscious.
yeah. But a lot of the time, people probably don't understand where that actually comes from. Don't know. Do you
No,
know what I'm saying?
exactly. And that's why I'm saying, it. See,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like, that is the first part of, like, my subconscious mind doesn't really trip me up as much. Obviously, because I'm trained in that now, and obviously I'm onto it. But
Yes.
even in terms of people who get sober and then they relapse, because your subconscious mind, it will always try to pull you back to the familiar. Not that anyone should see like their subconscious mind is some kind of a dictator. We have to remember it thinks it's
Yeah, but I
helping
suppose
us survive.
Your familiar would have been a certain familiar for 14 years before you got pulled back into.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I suppose it would go by the most recent time that my dopamine system was hijacked.
Okay.
So even though, like, a trigger can cause a dopamine spike, it can, oh, it's called anticipatory dopamine. You don't have this. It could be like you see people you used to party with, you pass by a place you used to drink with. That in itself can be a trigger, even though you're not drinking. Obviously, the longer you're sober, the less that will happen. But it can when unless you start learning how to deal with emotions, how to deal with your past, how to deal with negative self-beliefs, the pull back to addiction will always be a little bit more tempting, because you will always remember, I feel like shit, have a drink,
Yeah.
and that 20
And that
minutes
made you
it's
feel
gone.
good.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's so intoxicating, it's so powerful.
And you believe a lot of addiction is driven by the subconscious. How can someone genuinely want to stop taking something, but another part of their mind keeps pulling them back to it?
Yeah, first of all, I would, I suppose, ask what it is that they're, what is it about life that they don't think that they can face without that crutch? And a lot of people will probably say, well, I'm afraid to live in that world. I'm afraid to get sober. It will be very fear-based. What I would say to that person is that most of your fears are not real. They are, again, your subconscious mind trying to protect you. It sees you trying to change anything as that could be you in danger. So don't think too much about your fears. You're more courageous than you are fearful. try not to think too much about the future. I had a mantra in my early days, which was, it's okay to not know about the future, but I trust and know that all will be well. I used to listen to, it's called binaural beats. They're music on a certain frequency. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would get the theta
Yes,
brainwave
nice.
frequency. So all the great things I was telling myself would go in. And I would walk, there's a woods nearby, I'd be in the queue in the supermarket with my earphones in, saying over and over in my head, I don't know what the future, you never know what's going on in people's lives, actually. Do you imagine I'm there in the supermarket with my ear things? It's okay to not know the future, but I trust and have faith that all will be okay. I can't tell you, Ryan, how much comfort I got from that, because if I started to go into the future, I would, and I also kept going over and over again about how grateful I was. Because
Gratitude's a big one, isn't
it's
it?
a big one. Yeah. And now that like they studies show like it can, it can stop your cortisol, your stress hormones from spiking. It can help you with serotonin, all of those things, because it is a case like you have to be grateful and try not to, whatever your past, I do think in terms of getting sober, try not to go down the road of self-pity, because it will hold you back. If I had allowed self-pity in that moment when everything fell apart to take hold, I would be, well, I wouldn't be sitting here, that's for sure, but I'd be still saying, telling anyone who cared to listen about how miserable my life was. I mean, I couldn't bear to live like that.
I know, because my issue is, right, so obviously I speak a lot, and sometimes I can come across quite blunt about things. I really can. And sometimes it's just, I just understand that it's not that I can't have empathy for people or I can't sympathise or whatever. I just understand that self-pity and being like having a victim mindset, it just doesn't help your life.
No.
And I talk about it loads, but sometimes I probably need to put it across a little bit better, because not that like I speak like David Goggins or something, but like because I don't, but as well I understand what works for me. And even I openly talk about how my message isn't for everybody, because sometimes I deliver it in a very blunt way, but it's also, I understand I receive messages best that way, because that's nearly through fighting. That's how I was coached. Nearly in a way, like it'd be just like, shut up, we don't want to hear you complaining. It's just like, just go on with it and work hard. And I understand that that's not always the best way to speak to people, but I also understand that kind of style resonates with me a lot. I don't know why it doesn't.
Well, I think I have seen your posts, Ryan, on that subject. And you're very definite in the way you speak about it, because you believe it, because you've had your own experience with it. But it always comes across as very sincere, not in, not as extreme as, well, maybe we all need an inner David Goggins.
Yeah, I just was thinking, he's like one of the,
I couldn't. Like, okay, he is extreme, but I mean, look, that guy is incredible. I've so much admiration.
I
for
really
him.
do, but I just, I think from me sometimes when I hear people act like that, sometimes people even come to me and go, "Or it must be hard for you to listen to people act like that after everything you've been through." And I'm like, not at all, because what I say to people is, it doesn't matter what you're going through in life. Your problems are they're the biggest problems in your life.
Yeah.
Whether that be what you deem, and is like kind of society would probably deem a catastrophic circumstance, it doesn't matter. Even if you're just been in a relationship for a month and it didn't go your way, and you're really down about it, that is the biggest problem in your life. So it's not that I even am frustrated when I hear people complain about certain things. I'm not. My frustration comes nearly from a point where I'm like, you don't even understand how little that's helping your life. And if you just didn't have that mindset or the attitude, your life would be doing amazingly. It's just because it feels good to tell yourself that story. It's like, you can't do anymore. You're who'd blame you? Look at all what you're at the going through. You don't need to keep on having to go through all these uncomfortable feelings. It'd be easier if you just stopped. And but my just thing is, if you just didn't think like that, your life, you're only holding yourself back.
Well,
with
those
them.
feelings can almost become as bad as an addiction. People can become addicted because, again, it's familiar.
Yes.
People can actually get a bit of a dopamine hit
Yes.
if they're the kind of person that says, "Oh well, you're going somewhere, you're going on a day trip, and then you've got some person that's a bit pessimistic. Oh, that the weather's probably going to be shit, whatever.
Yeah.
The restaurant we're going to go to is probably going to be crap, and then that happens to be the truth. You actually get a little dopamine surge, get a little bit high. So that shows you how toxic, how ingrained it can be in people to have that mentality. Like, I was very conscious, of course, coming here that, me losing my business in comparison, of course, but I knew it's not about me and you comparing.
No.
I'm talking, obviously about what happened to me, but I can understand. And that's, as you said, Ryan, everybody...
Yeah,
we're
but
all
even-
too close to ourselves,
But even with my situation, like, what is my situation in comparison to, say, I don't know, somebody, for example, in Afghanistan who's just at the watching the whole family get blown up, for example. I know it's a bit of a different comparison, but it's, there's always someone worse off than you.
Yeah.
Like, so what I'm trying to say is everybody's issues in their own life is their own biggest issues, and they shouldn't ever feel bad kind of thinking like, oh, well, what have I got to complain about when someone... Now, sometimes I do believe that can kind of help you when you go,
Yeah.
you kind of look at your life and go, oh, well, I know I'm really in the gutter here, but things could be worse. That can help you. But what I'm saying is everybody's problems in their own life is their own biggest problems. But my kind of frustration is nearly for the people themselves in it, because I'm just kind of say to myself, if you just didn't think like that, your life could be exponentially better. But your own mind is keeping you in this, because you want to just keep on telling yourself this story of, your life is the worst thing ever and you can't do this and you can't do that because this has happened, and look at, so it's just like these reasons you just keep on feeding yourself why you can't make your own life better. And that's where my frustration comes from, because my frustration is just like, if you just stop thinking like that, you would live an amazing life.
Yeah, like, again, going back to be a bit delusional, and just
Yes.
stop focusing on the fact.
Yeah.
It's not about denying that, yes, things are shit, like, or have been, but you've got to let things go.
Yeah.
You have to accept that whatever has happened has happened. It's much easier to move forward with your life. If you were still, if you went down that road, you would be still stuck.
There's
And,
no
and if you
question.
didn't find some way to be okay in this world with what had happened, well, you would find life hard. It would be a struggle. You'd probably become bitter.
Oh, it'd be so bitter and
Yeah.
resentful towards the world. And,
Yeah.
But then, what kind of a life is that to live?
I know, awful.
To just wake up every single day being cynical, bitter, like, nihilistic, just...
There's nothing worse, like,
Yeah,
than,
it's
than
just-
I think cynical people, I find them hard going.
Yeah.
They totally ruin your buzz.
Personally, I don't deal with
No.
anybody who's like that, like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of just like...
Are you quite careful, Ryan, since this happened to you, about the people that you hang around with in terms of their mindset?
I kind of always was, to
Yeah.
be truthful,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I was kind of, I was conscious about it before the accident
Okay.
for a long time.
So you wouldn't ever been tolerating too much whinging? Or,
No, I have a few family members, truthfully, who I have to deal with because they're family, but
Yeah.
everybody, and when I say I have to deal with them, it's just kind of like if we're in a certain setting or whatever, but truthfully, like, other than that, I don't have, because there's no reason for me to choose to have cynical people or negative people in my life,
Yeah.
I call them mouth hoovers. You just...
It's so true though. Like if they've actually done studies that if in workplaces So they take, like, say, 10 really productive people in the workplace. They put one negative
Yes, I've
person. Only
seen that.
one. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even that they're putting like 50-50. Only one. And like their productivity plummets.
Yeah.
But I definitely, I'm so sensitive to people and their energies and and I'm quite ruthless.
Yeah. I think, but you need to be.
You have to be.
You know,
I think when you've been through some, like, I mean, I'm lucky to be alive, as are you, and
Yeah.
like, not that this is a comparison, but we both know in our own ways, like, struggles to get where you need to get. It takes a certain mindset.
Yeah.
You have to keep that mindset up. I think it also changes you in a way that so much crap in life is really just not that significant. And people who complain about insignificant stuff, I'm just kind of,
but you know, the good thing that I say to everybody is you can train your brain to see the positives and things.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what people, if they understood that you can actually, much like anything, your brain is a muscle and neuroplasticity, and I was well aware of that before the accident.
Yeah.
You can rewire it. It's not easy.
No.
You know, there's a book, one of my favourite books, I don't know if you've ever read it, it's called The Chimp Paradox. And they talk about, there's like goblins, and another term he uses. It's a very fascinating book, but I think goblins are the ones that's very, very, very difficult to break, because they were beliefs that grew in the 4-7 years. But he was saying, like, they can be broke. It just takes a lot of work. So what I'm saying is, it's difficult. It's not easy, but it can be done.
Yeah, no habit is easy.
Yes.
But it can be done. It's not has no more than addiction. I hear this a lot lately, like on people talking about addiction, saying things like, "Oh my, it's the most difficult thing. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And when you stop drinking, it doesn't get any easier." It's like I'm thinking that's actually not true. It's not easy to get sober, and for sure it's challenging, but it's a lot easier than you think if you know how to use
the tools,
your mind.
Okay, yeah.
Even if somebody started meditating today, even despite the fact, I've never meditated before, that's it straight there. Oh, I'm not going to meditate because I've never meditated before. I have given an example of I'm an example of someone who has got sober. So again, that depends on the person's mindset. Are they going to have the mindset where they're going to think, you know what, I'm going to try that? Or
but again, though, doesn't it just go back to people not wanting to feel uncomfortable because they nearly tell themselves that story in order to not feel uncomfortable? Like, I'm not going to meditate because that's not going to work for me. I couldn't do that. Do you know, even though there's like so much evidence, because...
So much evidence with meditation now. There's no excuse for anybody to say, I've never meditated before. I don't think that would work for me. And this is a big one. I've done it before and it didn't work. But it's like, you're not going to be able to learn how to ride a bike the first time you do it. If it takes
it takes
practice.
a while.
It takes getting used to.
Yeah, much like anything, it's a skill.
Much like anything. But people, there's a guy called Michael Easter wrote a book called The Comfort Crisis. When you talk there of discomfort, he claims that we are becoming more and more sick, because we now live in a world with so much comfort. Everything is, and it's like, and we are now finding it strange when we feel uncomfortable. Everything is like, you're going to buy something, you click this. You don't have to get that dopamine fix, that dopamine spike with any hard work anymore. You can get it artificially. You can get it from scrolling, this porn, whatever.
Well, even
it may be.
Even dating apps, like, you don't have to go and face rejection anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, which, I understand that being rejected kind of taught me so much, in the sense that, like, it's not that bad. She just said no. You asked somebody out, and it's like, all right, Do you know, like, what was it uncomfortable? Yeah, but you know what? you nearly just say to yourself, oh, well, what's the worst that can happen? You can say no, and then you just move on.
Well, nobody likes rejection. And again, that
Of
goes back
course.
to our primal brain, because years ago, if you were in a tribe and you got rejected,
I
you
talk
would be
about this all
dead.
the time. Yeah, I talk about
So
that all
it
the time.
feels, look, let's face it, I don't know anyone out there that they, oh, yeah, bring it on. I love it.
Yeah,
No,
no.
it's scary for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah.
Like, even with myself, like, I want to embrace new things, and I talk about, like, sometimes seeking discomfort, but
Yeah.
like, it's still very difficult for me to want to do that because I don't like being uncomfortable. It's not a good feeling.
You don't like, you said.
No.
Yeah, of course.
No, I don't like it, but I try and override the feeling of being uncomfortable because I understand that's where the most growth is.
That is,
It's still very difficult to do, though.
I think it is.
You know?
It's a great challenge. And that's even with people getting sober. There will be discomfort.
There's no question.
I'm saying that it is not as difficult as people think, but for sure, there is discomfort. But what is, and this is a saying that I heard in my early days, and it really helped me. What scares you most? The fear of that discomfort and in the change, or the fear of staying the same?
Yeah.
That was a big one for me. It was like, oh my God, yeah. So discomfort is difficult for everyone, but it is only when you start going into that, like that guy with the book, he went off he actually purposely puts himself in situations that are uncomfortable. He went off trekking in the Arctic.
Yes.
On his own. Like, he was bored, hungry. And he does that kind of thing once a year, because when you put your dopamine through discomfort, you get it, like you say, the discomfort of exercising.
Yes, like, it's like a bit.
Like you would have gone through, like, having to lift, start lifting weights. Very uncomfortable.
Yes.
But your dopamine would have got a major surge, which would have given you that thing to keep going. And it's a natural surge as well. But yeah, his book is about that. We're living in a comfort crisis.
But I'm sure, much like even anything, you build it, you start to be able to build a tolerance to it, and then you realise, oh, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, with a lot of things, we build up a narrative in our head, mainly from overthinking and thinking into the future, like about, oh, this is going to be really bad, this is going to be really uncomfortable, and then you actually do it, and you're like, oh, well, it was uncomfortable, but it wasn't
as bad.
It wasn't as much as I built her up into my head.
Yeah.
And I found that's been a lot of the way for my life, something that I kind of sat around thinking about, like, oh, how this is going to be really bad, or it's going to be really difficult, it's going to be so uncomfortable, and then I actually do it, and it was hard, it was challenging, it was discomfort, but it wasn't as much as I had built. It wasn't the narrative that I had built in my own mind previous to doing it.
And that's quite incredible, Ryan, like for what you were going to have to be doing in order to try and get walking again. Let's face it, there was huge discomfort. But even for someone like you to say, yeah, there was, but it wasn't as bad. Because a lot of people just imagine, oh yeah, all of it would be horrifically uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, I kind of just knew from, as well, I just knew from fighting, even, I fought in the tree arena in front of thousands of people, and when you sit there and you think about yourself walking out in front of everybody who you know, and it's a daunting feeling, it is, but it's worse in your head than it actually is when it's real. Do you know what I'm saying? You build up a worst thing, because you're thinking, and bear in mind, when you're thinking all these things, you're also thinking about the consequences of it not going the way, you potentially getting knocked out in front of everybody who you love, getting embarrassed, that there is a lot of consequences to fighting in terms of health ramifications and stuff like that. But again, the narrative in your mind that you build up is always worse in your mind than it actually is in reality.
Yeah.
And I kind of understood that. That helped me a lot getting through the injury, because I understood that from fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it's still really difficult, of course, but again, I try to not...
Were you uncomfortable setting up the podcast, Ryan, or did that just seem like a natural progression for you?
No, I wasn't uncomfortable because I just love talking to people, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's an issue with people who, like, even my friends, they're like, oh, don't start talking to people because you just don't stop. Is if we're out somewhere, they're like, you know, so I just really,
You have a really good attitude, Ryan, don't
yeah,
you?
no, I
Yeah, you've good
appreciate that,
energy.
but
Yeah.
I just like to talk to people, and I just like to hear their story and stuff, you know. It's never forced. I'm never just doing something for the sake of, or asking. So, like, quite frankly, if I don't want to talk to somebody or I don't find them interesting, I just won't ask. You
Yeah.
know, truthfully,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, because I'm not going to be disingenuous and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
Of
know,
course.
pretend like I just
Yeah.
want to talk to you for the sake of,
Yeah,
you
that'd be
know,
a bit of a shambles. But going back to that, Ryan, about the uncertainty, that again is the subconscious mind. It doesn't like uncertainty. So when you were saying there, oh, and you'll come up with all of these, outcomes, the subconscious would rather come up with a catastrophic outcome than to just be left
is
with the
that
not
is that
knowing.
this is that the steer you away from doing it?
Yeah, because your subconscious would prefer that you did it. Because again, that primal part of the brain, it wants to keep you safe. It
Yes.
would rather you never left the house. It would,
Yes. Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it really
yeah, yeah,
would. Like, you're
yeah,
you're safe here. It's familiar.
yeah.
Nothing. There's no. The subconscious mind doesn't like to expend much energy. And anything that you do that's challenging, they don't want it, which is why they go for the familiar, where it goes for the familiar. So again, going back to primal times, in evolutionary times, if you didn't know what was around each corner, if you didn't know what route you were going on every day to catch deer or whatever for your dinner, then you could end up getting killed. So
Yes.
it's the job of the subconscious mind to keep you almost alert to different degrees, depending on the person, depending on their nervous system. So when you think of, oh yeah, I think I might try such and such a thing, if it's a bit unknown, if you haven't done it before, it could be something as simple as, I might go to a party tonight. And this is quite common. This is so sad, the subconscious mind. Well, yeah, but you're probably not going to really, bond with anyone at that party.
Yeah.
And what if people don't really like you
Like,
at that
yeah.
party? Your subconscious mind will do that because the fact of the matter is we don't know what's going to happen for the most part in any of our futures.
Yes.
That's the unpredictability of life. We don't know. But your subconscious mind can't just leave it as, I don't know. That was why my mantra in the beginning was, I don't know what, because I knew this about the subconscious mind,
Yes.
that it was going to keep pushing me to come up with worst case scenarios. And if it kept pushing me, I would have imagined my future to be horrific. I mean, how was I going to keep sober? If that's what, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It would have sent me running back again.
And if you kind of, just off the top of your head, Angela, if you any like little tools for people who,
Yeah, I'm the number one expert in this field because I've
Okay.
suffered with it all my life.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, when I
because I
look
think
back
it'd
at
be
it,
quite helpful for people
yeah,
listening.
exactly that. As soon as you start thinking, oh, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go for this job, I'm probably not going to get it. I'm going to try and get sober again, but look at all the other times. That's probably not going to happen. If you say it out loud, if you have to, stop. I don't know. Nobody knows what is going to happen from here on in. But I have faith that everything is going to be okay. It's very powerful. Also, it will calm the nervous system as well. Breathe, but always be conscious. Don't go unconscious, because then you just sleepwalk through life. You're being almost persecuted by this inner dictator. You have to learn to become friends with that part of your mind. Whereas my subconscious, yes, it will still throw up. It's not like my life is perfect by no manner of
Yes,
means,
of course.
but it just doesn't try as much because I don't
What do you
engage with
mean
it.
by don't go unconscious? What do you mean by that?
Don't go unconscious. Never allow your subconscious mind to keep running a show, running your life based on beliefs that aren't even probably yours.
I know, but it's an issue, isn't it, within people? I think, like, listening to conversations like this, it opens people's minds to there's more going on than what they think. But a lot of people actually don't understand that their whole life has just been driven by their subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Like, where they just wake
Yeah.
up, like, for example, they just wake up at 9, go to work till 5, come home, watch Netflix for a couple of hours, have dinner, and then go to bed, and then maybe go out and just do something on the weekend. Maybe it could be drinking or partying or
Because then you're going to
whatever.
block that out. If you're that's what I mean. Don't go unconscious. If you are unconscious, you will be ruled by that voice, that inner critic, that program, a program that is possibly not even yours. There's that famous book, Brené Ware, I think her name is. She was a palliative care nurse, and she wrote a book called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. So obviously she was around so
I've never
many
read it, but I'm familiar.
people. Yeah, you'd love it. So many people when they were dying. And one of the number one regrets was, I always find this very sad actually, I wish I had lived the life I truly wanted to live. That I wish I hadn't cared so much. That's a big part of it as well. I wish I hadn't cared so much. And one of the other ones is, can't remember all of them, but these are the two that were always quite significant to me. I wish I'd allowed myself to be happy.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine that. I think it's
Where do you think that comes from? Like social pressures, or like where parents expect certain things of you, society expects certain things of you, you've been told to kind of live your life a certain way, or do you know where do you think that comes from?
People want to belong.
Okay. Like to be a part of something?
I think people like... I think people are afraid to be different.
Well, it goes back to what we were speaking about earlier on. If you're different and you spoke out, it probably wasn't going to be good for you.
Yeah, and we have, of course, history of that as well. I think as well, people do what's familiar. People probably keep living that life because they don't believe they can have different.
Right.
And that's when I say don't go unconscious. If a belief is telling you, well, yeah, life is shit, but you're stuck in this now.
Yeah, and this is just the way it is.
Don't let that go unnoticed.
Yes.
Start noticing that, because they're subconscious, they're not obvious like our conscious thoughts, which is like, I'm going to the shop now, I'm going to buy my lunch. They're conscious thoughts.
Yes.
We're aware of them. But as I said, you can normally tell that it's a limiting belief if it comes up a lot. Like something like, well, things don't work out for you. Yes. Say like if and you're not even conscious. When you start being conscious, you actually might be shocked to hear how many times you say to yourself, I need to find a new relationship. This one isn't working. Yes. Yeah, well, a new relationship is probably not going to work for you. Then like, I need to change my job. I'm really unhappy. Yeah, but you're not going to get another job.
Yeah.
When you really start hearing
paying
attention to that, you won't get tripped up as
much.
Let that drive you. Let that be the ambition in you to say, well, actually, I'm not accepting that. Yeah. You wouldn't accept a friend, telling you this is who you are. Yeah. Do you imagine going around if that was your friend?
It's so funny. I know, but it's so funny, isn't it? How
telling you,
sometimes
you're wrong, this is wrong, your hair is wrong, your shoes are wrong.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Isn't it so funny? Because I remember thinking that before, like, if there was ever a time I spoke to myself not too kindly, and I would think, oh my God, you would never let anybody else speak to you like that, but you're speaking to yourself like that,
Yeah.
Which is the biggest, most important person.
I know.
Do you know, like, you telling yourself something is way more important than somebody else telling you something.
And also, like, would you speak to somebody else like that?
Yeah, never.
Like, you have a child to know. Like, could you imagine? Like, like I would, absolutely not.
Yeah, you just wouldn't. Yeah, but sometimes we think it's okay to speak to ourselves like that.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre.
It is bizarre, but it's a habit. It's like everything else, it's a habit, and it comes from the fact that that's kind of who you think you are, and it just goes on in a loop. But once you start interrupting it, it does tend to pipe down. With me, it still comes up every now and then.
Yeah.
I'll have a limiting self-belief.
I'm sure you're not immune to it like anybody.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
And I sometimes catch myself, and I could have been in that loop for like half an hour, and then I think, and I almost kind of get a little bit annoyed with myself. I think, but at least it won't go on all day, whereas it used to before.
Yeah.
All day, every day.
Yeah. About silly little things as well, isn't it? Because I do talk about, how letting little small stuff ruin your day. Like if you're driving down the M50 and you get a puncture, you wouldn't jump out of your car and puncture the other 3 wheels.
Yeah.
So why would you let one thing at the start of the day upset the whole rest of your day? Which, let's be honest, even with myself, before I was conscious about these things, would let a day turn into a bad week, which could potentially turn into a bad month.
Yeah.
And then you kind of cop yourself on. You're like, oh my God, what are you on?
And and people don't want to be around that. Have you ever been, like, say, to a restaurant with? It's an awful, like, you've been to a restaurant or something, and someone gets their food, and it's like maybe the starter isn't great, and then that's it. They're just and like everybody else now is just having to put up with this mood.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we're all human.
Of course, and you
And
know
we
what,
do
we can
it.
relate because I've done it myself before.
Yeah,
Do you
I have
know?
as well. Or,
You know?
trying to be more trying to be more patient with life, and things don't go your way. There's that as well, trying to accept all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, no, it is. It's really difficult. Before we finish up, Angela, if somebody listening right now is in addiction, has tried to stop 10 times and thinks, this is just who I am now, what have you learned from both your own recovery and the people you've treated that you would want them to understand?
That the next attempt could be the attempt that could change your life. And you could have a life of sobriety that it's not always easy, but oh my God, like there's so much greatness in it. And to never give up. And that how, I would say to someone, how you feel today watching this, if you're in that place where you don't think you can do it, first and foremost, challenge that belief, because you can. I'm evidence that you can. There's millions of people in the world who have done it. What makes you different? Don't judge yourself as in, yeah, that's okay for them, but not me. And I can understand why someone would feel like that with the mind that they have now in that place of addiction, with a mind that's not at its best.
Yes.
So that person is not the best judge of how possible this is.
Yes.
I'm probably a better judge, and I can say to anyone who is listening, it is possible. And to believe and trust that how you feel today in this more fragile place is not how you'll feel a little down the road. It's just one foot in front of the other. Do one thing today, even one. Just even listening to this, that's neuroplasticity in itself. You're learning maybe something new. There's maybe hope in the message,
Maybe
and
erasing some of the limiting beliefs that you
Yeah.
can't do it.
absolutely.
When you're like a specialist who says that people can change their life every single day.
I see it all the time. And the main thing is people still, that I think the addict really at that stage thinks that, no one really cares anymore, that people, probably are sick of them. And that is never true. It's never true. There's always hope. And speak to somebody as well, even a close friend, somebody else who's sober, someone who has good sobriety.
Yeah.
People always want to help.
Yes.
And you're not alone. You're not the only person listening to this thinking, I'm doomed.
Yeah.
There's other people who are struggling in the same way that you are, but there is always hope, and there's evidence, everywhere. And don't allow fear to stop you, because fear will try and stop you. It will tell you there's a lot to be afraid of.
Well, fair, false evidence appeared in real.
Yeah,
know,
that's
that
actually
kind of-
really good. Yeah.
Yeah, did you ever hear that before?
Yeah, I
it's,
did it.
It's
Yeah.
quite good, yeah.
Yeah.
False evidence appeared in real.
Yeah.
Equals
And
fair.
it does. But, remember, there's also courage as well, despite fear. So, yeah.
No, thanks so much
Yeah.
for the
Thank
brilliant
you,
chat,
Ryan.
Angela. I
Yeah,
really
it was
appreciate
lovely.
that.
Thank you,
That was
Ryan.
great. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. See you again next week.